What's up, YouTube? We are finally back. I'm finally back into the YouTube industry, I know. It's been so long. But anyways, today's topic is on a game called War Thunder. You've probably seen it be sponsored by some of your favorite YouTubers. But that's off the topic here. As you could probably tell by the title, today's video will be about the worst and best premiums in War Thunder. So with that being said, let's just jump straight into it here. Because yes. So our first plane here, by the way, I'm going to give you the top 2 worst premiums. And then, after talking about the top 2 worst premiums, I'm going to go to the top 2 best premiums. Now, this is all from my opinion. And I actually have played 2 of these before. So I have experienced a few of these planes. But I already do know the performance of the other ones because I've seen them. And I've monitored them. And yeah. So, first we have the F-104 TAF. This is an Italian plane. And you know, the Italian military, ever since the downfall of the Roman Empire, they've never had a good military ever since then. Their military has been absolute crap. Absolute dog water since then. So, this is basically a flying pencil with just some very thin wings. It's kind of ugly. That's one downside. So I'm going to first talk about the downsides of this aircraft, then I'm going to talk about the upsides. For downsides, this thing can only carry 2 missiles on some certain weapon setups. And if you'd want more than 2 missiles, you can pick up some AM-9s, which they are kind of trash because right as soon as they see a flare, they kind of just go off target. Unless they're the more modern ones. But this carries some of the outdated ones, such as the AM-9B and P. These are pretty bad missiles. Right as soon as they detect a flare or a drop of chaff, they will instantly go off target and chase that flare. Now, if you are willing to sacrifice 4 of your missiles, you can carry some AM-7s, which are slow moving missiles but hit their targets quite a bit at a time. And they are loaded with explosives, so whatever you hit should die. So these missiles are radar guided, which means you have to get your radar to detect a plane and lock onto that plane before you can actually use your missile to actually lock onto the aircraft. So this just adds an extra step of locking on your missile to the target, which honestly isn't too horrible until you realize your target just might be able to easily outmaneuver this thing, simply just because of its poor speed. And that's just one huge downside. The weapons it can carry are also not good. It doesn't carry that many bombs. It can carry some snake eyes, which are pretty good bombs most of the time. Or if you want to go to the bigger bombs, you can carry 3 1,000-pound bombs, or you could carry a single 2,000-pound bomb. And if you want to carry around 6 bombs and sacrifice some of your bigger bombs, I don't know why you would do that, you could just throw some 250 pounds on the wings. There's nothing else really good about this besides the other loadout it has for ground targets, which are the Mighty Mouse missiles. Well, not missiles, but rockets. They are really good for dealing with tanks, but they are kind of small, so it will take quite a few hits. But these missiles are very small and accurate. But let's say you don't want the small rockets and you want to be able to like hit and kill your target within a single shot. Well, that's where you can carry some Zunis. Zunis are super good rockets and they can absolutely obliterate battleships too. That's just how powerful they are. These things are really big rockets, but you only get a very small amount, as you only get 8 of these rockets. And you only get 2 rocket pods, so you don't really get any rockets with that. Honestly, it's just a bad plane. I wouldn't buy it. It's gonna set you back $70, and you're probably gonna hate yourself after you buy it. Don't buy. Like, please don't buy it, dude. Next, we have a plane here, which this is a plane in the German tech tree. So this is one of the best tech trees in the game, but it definitely does not have the best top tier jets, at least for 11.0. At 11.0, it has some pretty bad jets, such as this. You're probably like, oh, why would you say this jet's so bad? Well, I'm just gonna simply tell you this now. A lot of people probably will not agree with this statement, but I'm gonna say it anyways. This is a kind of trash aircraft. I'd probably say it's worse than the F-104 that we just talked about in the Italian tech tree. Now, there are quite a few good things about this jet, but I'm gonna talk about the downsides first. This jet can only carry 2 air-to-air missiles, and they're only AIM-9Ls, which are pretty decent missiles, but right as soon as they detect flares, once again, will go straight off targets. That's just how most AIM-9s work. Now, this plane's gonna make you want to die if you buy it. Now, this plane is really good for close air support if you do play in ground battles, because it can carry 7 1,000-pound bombs. Wait, no, that's an upside. I'm stupid. Just take that with a grain of salt. This plane, it's kind of trash still. Let's say you want to flare missiles. Well, you're going to have to add on some extra weight. And you're going to have to add some flare pods on there, which just reduces your speed because it increases drag quite a bit. And if you don't want to die from a missile, sacrificing your speed is the only way to do this. Because this thing's an absolute speed demon. And it just dies when you put on these things, bro. The drag just... Like, seriously. Next, we're going to go on with the upsides. So, as I said, it can carry 7 1,000-pound bombs. Now, it can carry some drop tanks, which is good if you want to carry some extra fuel to the battlefield. And let's say you get in a sticky situation and you need to, let's say you need to run away from your enemy. Due to the thing's pretty decent speed, it can get away from its enemies pretty well, as it is an older military jet, and back then speed was kind of a priority to most countries. I still don't know why. But hey, whatever floats your boat, I guess. So this plane is just, it has some okay weaponry. I just don't agree with it. Like, only 2 missiles? Bro, I clearly see room for at least over 7 missiles. I see room for probably maybe even 8 missiles on there. Like, man, I see much more room for missiles. Like, why don't you just put some more missiles? there's so many spots where you can just put some missiles on there, man. Like, bro, sometimes you're gonna need more than just 2 missiles. And, well, if you do want to engage in a dogfight using your guns, you're still probably gonna get killed. Because this thing is a brick. It turns worse than a freaking brick. Now, this jet is very deceiving. It says it has a turn rate of around 24 seconds. Yeah. That's really good. At least you think. It's truly not. It's only at a certain altitude, and most players will fly at low altitudes during ground battles, which is where the drag and wind resistance really kills this thing. However, it can go Mach 1 without any afterburners, which means that you can go at very high speeds while saving fuel, which is a pretty decently big plus. It's also good for running away from enemies just due to how fast it is. If you're going to run away from enemies, though, you might as well have a lot of fuel, because if you don't, you're dead. This thing, once you run out of flares, you're pretty much dead. This thing can not really outmaneuver any missiles. This plane has so much potential. I would just say it could be moved like down to 10.3. I think that's where like that's probably the most deserving battle rating in this thing. And it probably is the best to put it. Because like it has the amount of missiles. It has the same missiles that quite a few aircraft at that battle rating have. Like once they see a flare, just off target. This is simply a plane that just got way too high of a battle rating, and it's very outdated compared to the planes that it will meet in a battle. There is so much potential for this aircraft, and I'd just say it's just a bit too outdated compared to the other aircraft. One big plus I almost forgot about was that it has reverse thrust, which can be really helpful on a quick landing, but there's quite a few upsides, but I just wouldn't buy it. Only 2 missiles, that's just kind of bad. But anyways, now we're going to go to the top 2 best premiums, in my opinion. This is the second best premium in the game, I'd say. And this, of course, is the F4S Phantom. This can be found in the American tech tree and has a decently fair battle rating, I'd say. It sits at 11.3. I think you could put it at 11.0 and it would still be fine. I wouldn't say it would be overpowered necessarily at 11.0. Like, it has a pretty decently fair battle rating. It's a really good aircraft. I don't really see any downsides about it. This thing is really good, and it can perform some pretty... It's very maneuverable. If you tried hard enough, I bet you could probably pull a Cobra in this thing, which is a really hard maneuver and requires an aircraft with tons of maneuverability. This thing can kind of do it, except it just loses control because I think it's just too maneuverable for a Cobra. So this is actually a plane from the 1960s, and it was used in the Vietnam War. It's very heavily used in Vietnam, which means that this plane is probably older than all of you watching. This is probably a plane that your grandpa would tell you a lot about, to be honest. This plane has pretty much no downsides. The weapons that it can carry are really good. So, this thing can carry Zuni rockets, the big rockets that we all know and love. This thing can also carry very good missiles. If you want, and let's say you want to go for an air-to-air, well, this thing can carry AM-7s, in case you're wondering what exactly AM-7Fs, or you could throw on quite a few AM-9H, which they're really good missiles. The AM-9H definitely are not that good against flares, as like a few drops of flares can probably disrupt the missile from its actual target. But sometimes you want to go for the enemy that's like weakened and probably doesn't have any flares, that has been fighting for a long time. Because like there's a lower possibility that they actually have some flares left because they might have already used it by now fighting against your teammates. This thing can also carry tons of bombs. And this thing is really good for taking out battleships just due to the sheer amount of bombs it can carry. This thing can carry 8 1,000-pound bombs, or it could carry 18 500-pound bombs. That's almost as much as the B-29 bomber that dropped the nuke on Hiroshima. It's pretty crazy. Now, it could carry, if let's say you want a few more bombs than that, you could carry 12 750-pound bombs. It's a really good aircraft. And honestly, I don't see anything wrong with it, except this AM-7s. Sometimes they can be a bit of pain to get them to actually get the radar to actually lock onto an enemy aircraft, and then getting the missile to lock onto an enemy aircraft. The missiles are not the best, but they do not work against flares, as they are radar guided, and as long as you are alive, the missile will keep on going towards its target, which definitely is really good. Just make sure you don't die when firing your missile, or else it will go off target, because there's no longer a usable radar that isn't completely destroyed to use. So it will just stop guiding itself to the target. Really good aircraft, no problems with it, besides just locking on the targets, which honestly, it's not bad. This plane is really solid. It's pretty goated. I wouldn't say it's worth $70. You could probably pump it down to $60 and I'd still buy it. But it's still a good plane. I don't really see anything wrong with it. This is the best premium in the entire game, I would say. This is a plane that comes from the Soviet Union. This is an old Soviet aircraft with sweep wings, which means that they can be extended out further for, landing and stuff like that. But when you want some speed, the wing can actually sweep backwards. That just greatly improves aerodynamics. This thing has a huge engine that produces a lot of power. And even after many years of being in the game, it still holds its title of one of the best. It still holds its title of the best premium and one of the fastest jets in all of War Thunder. Honestly, there is nothing to complain about here. This thing can go around Mach 2, which is just insane. Yeah, it's really crazy. This is an aircraft from the 70s to 60s, and it is just, there's nothing wrong with it. It's flawless. This thing can carry lots of missiles. This thing can carry R-60Ms, which are basically small but very fast and agile rockets. These things are super fast. Your enemy probably won't see it coming. These things go really fast. Nothing to complain about here. And it can carry some R-23Ts, which are really good missiles, simply because they are radar guided, and they do have some pretty good resistance against flares. And there's also multiple R23 variants of the missile that it can carry. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't carry too many bombs, but there's literally nothing wrong with it. Because, like, I don't even think this carrying bombs in this thing should be illegal, to be honest. Like, honestly, it should be illegal to carry bombs in this thing. This thing is just meant for fighting and literally nothing else. This thing is crazy. Now, you do have to carry, you can get 12 flares if you carry a flare pod, which honestly isn't a problem at all. You'll just have to sacrifice a drop tank, which honestly, you can just fully load up your fuel tank and be completely fine. This jet is also extremely maneuverable and has really good turn time. There's honestly nothing to complain about this aircraft. It's just that good. This thing is also really good, and it can hold up very good against some anti-air or some, let's say, enemy missiles. This thing is pretty tough, and I have seen one of these things just take a missile to its wing and still be able to fly. And this thing, it somehow can fly without wings. Don't ask how it's possible. That's just how strong the engine is. This engine is so strong, it just defies a lot of physics. This aircraft is perfect. It is worth the $70 price tag. This is the best premium of all time in War Thunder. Just buy it, dude. It's worth the price. No questions asked. And if you try to refund this thing, you are a psychopath. But anyways, that's it for this video. I might record soon or later. I don't know. See ya, guys.